Rachel, and today I'm bringing you my May reading wrap-up. And it's going to be a quick one because I only have one book really to talk about because reading is just this year. But let's kind of rehash some details and then I'll get to the lone book that I read in the month. So I had a decent TBR, not super ambitious. I wanted to read Aurora Rising and Aurora Burning. Didn't get to those. I really wanted to read the new Hunger Games book. I bought it. Haven't read it yet. I wanted to read 10 Things I Hate About Pinky by Sandia Menon. I did not get to it. I wanted to read a Twisted Tale book for our school book club. Didn't get to it. And I wanted to read a self-help book for my other club. Didn't get to it. Didn't read any of them. I did manage to film at least one video a week. These are a part of my year-long goals. I did film at least one video a week. I actually put out 7 videos in the month, which is pretty good. I nailed that one. All my videos were here in front of my bookcase like I have been trying to do this year. I would put my reading enjoyment at about a 40% because, like I said, I'm just not like super enjoying it. What I do read, I kind of enjoy, but apparently not enough to motivate me to read more. I added no new books to my Book Riot reading challenge, so I'm sitting at 12%, even though we're roughly at least like 45% of the way through the year. For my Goodreads goal, I'm up to 21 books out of 100, which is 21%, and 21 books behind. And book club, we're just not even gonna talk about book club anymore. And yeah, I read none of the books that were on my TBR this month. I only read one book. Good news about that though, when you only read one book, your pages per book average just skyrockets as long as that was a longer book. And for me, that was 336 pages, so my average pages per book this year, or this month, was 336 pages. However, that equates to daily it being about 11 pages per day, which I didn't do because I finished this book probably in like the first like week and a half of the month. So I really haven't read anything for the last 2 to 3 weeks, and that's kind of a bummer. But now that we have all the bummer stats out of the way, let's move that on over here. Let's talk about the one book that I did read. And might I say that I did a bang-up job reading this one book. I broke out the annotation tools. I had it all spread out. I have notes in here. If you know me in person, you're probably shocked because I am very, picky about all of my books. I don't particularly like pages bent and spines bent and things, but I decided I'm gonna start throwing caution to the wind. I think it just finally sunk in that I would like my books to be a lot more me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't want somebody to come in and be able to get a book in my library that I really love, that they could just go into a bookstore and it would be like the exact same copy as pristine, yada yada. I still would like my books to look nice, I can't help it, but I did really kind of enjoy annotating this one, so I'm not saying I'm going to annotate everything I read from now on, but I do think that it changes the reading experience. So I would love to know your ideas and your thoughts on annotating books down below, because I really can see both sides. Being a librarian too, it's really weird. Please, if you're watching this, do not write in a library book. Oh my gosh, that will break my heart. Please don't do that. But if you own the book, I mean, it's your book. Do what you want with it, you know? But anyway, I did annotate this. All of these pink ones you see up at the top, pink, red, whatever they look like, those are all of the different stories that are included here. The book is Lady Killers, Deadly Women Throughout History by Tori Telfer. And I thought this was a really interesting read. If you're into like true crime stuff, definitely give this a read. It's almost as if she's saying, sarcastically of course, like, why do white men get all the credit for all of the serial killings? We have several, badass ladies who've done serial killings too. It's a very, that's kind of like the sarcastic tone of the book. But oh my gosh, these women are horrifying. If you're somebody who isn't violent, you don't really understand this, it's hard to understand. But there's a lot of interesting ladies. She does comment there's not a ton of diversity in this book, just because I think a lot of times it wasn't documented in history, because these are all historical, and I think that was done very intentionally, so that it wouldn't be a family that is existing today. I don't think she wants to step on people's toes. If you write about somebody who was murdering people 100 years ago, everybody involved in that situation has, moved on from it. Do you know what I mean? Like the descendants are not going to be as impacted by your work, I guess. I don't know. So they're all very historical, and I think those records just don't exist of a lot of different types of people. And like I said, all of these are different ladies, all these different categories here. The only one that I had heard about before was the Blood Countess, Elizabeth Bathory. One thing that was interesting with this is how a lot of times women serial killers aren't necessarily glorified in the way that like white male serial killers are, but it is very much more sexualized. But I don't know, it's interesting too when you consider like people like Ted Bundy, and people were crazy about Ted Bundy. Like, what is that? What is that? You know, why isn't it just solely like repulsive? So I think it's interesting. I made several notes in here. One of my favorite quotes from the book was that our violent delights still lead to violent ends, but the ends change as the decades ebb and flow. Because she's talking about how the ways that people murder people, the ways that people get by with things definitely have changed, but the fact remains that they're still doing it. There's still people who do horrible things to other people. And like I said, it was just very interesting to see how people thought of these women at the time, but there isn't a lot of diverse voices in here simply because I don't think a lot of that was recorded. So most of these murders happened a long time ago. I think the most recent one in the book was, I can't remember what her name was, but I think she was maybe in the 50s. Yeah, Nanny Doss, the giggling grandma, was in the 1950s. But I mean, there's some that go back to like the 1500s. There's a lot in the 1900s. There's just across some time. And I'd only really heard of one, so that was interesting to read about some historical women obviously killing people. Not a good thing, not a good look, ladies, but it was interesting to kind of see the time that they were in and how the people around them viewed them, both before they were outed as a murderer and then after they were outed as a murderer. So just as kind of like a historical look, this was kind of interesting. But it's kind of like, it just depends on your view of true crime, I guess. Do you like reading about those things? You might like this. If you are a fan of like true crime, I think you could dig this. But a lot of things were sort of surprising. I think like historically, women serial killers are very interesting because I don't think, I'm not sure they were ever like really considered a threat, no matter how many people they killed. And I think evidence just wasn't as much of a thing back then. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to catch these women on film. They're not going to catch these women with DNA. So they literally had to catch some of these women, like, literally in the act of killing somebody. So it was interesting to see that perspective. So again, I would recommend this if you like true crime. I thought it was pretty interesting. It was very, I don't want to say like easy to read because it's about like murder, but the way it was broken up, the flow went really well. So overall, I thought it was a pretty decent book. I'm glad I picked this one up. I read this for my True Crime-a-thon earlier in the month, and it kind of bled into the later in this month, no pun intended. And yeah, if you like true crime, definitely check it out. If you have any true crime books that you'd like to recommend me, I'd love to hear about them. I think I really liked the anthology aspect of this book. So if you have any anthologies, definitely let me know down below. Have you read this one? Have you even heard of this one? I don't remember how I heard about it. I think I just stumbled upon it in a bookstore. So definitely check it out. I hadn't heard of any of these ladies except for one. So interesting read. Interesting, I guess. So yeah, like I said, I totally nailed reading this month with my one book. I didn't read a lot, but you know, I put a lot of effort into this one. I have notes, I have all kinds of things, and yeah, I'm gonna be able to put it on my shelf and just look at it with pride that I read it so hard. So there you have my May wrap up, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again in another video soon. Bye for now.